Hello, my name is Jess Lambert, and this is for the week 4 final assessment on the kydex lab. So, first things first, I'll start with this. I do have a firearm on my bench. Magazine is out, and there's nothing in the chamber. I want to get that out of the way now. So, first things first, I did have to make my press. I did use white pine. I don't know if you can see or not, but it did crack, and I had to double up. So I do plan on rebuilding this once I can make it to the store and get new material. Luckily my hinges did hold. I did use an 1 1/8" drywall screw. Unfortunately, by doing that, I did have to go in and grind the screw heads down so it wouldn't protrude into the foam. That way, if I had something in the press, it would not harm the project that I was working on. So there is the press. Everything worked great. It held up really well. Surprisingly, the cracks did not get worse. Hopefully the glue that I used to kind of fill in there helped hold it together. So with that said, what I did was I took my Colt Mustang, and I did not have a holster for this firearm. So for prep, what I did was I took a piece of wood and fit it into the trigger guard, and I made sure I reinforced the ejection port with tape. I did use painter's tape to cover the trigger guard, the ejection port, and most of the firearm from here forward. Another thing I did on this side was put a piece of wood so I can mount the belt clip. And I also held that down with painter's tape as well. Since in the video he did both a firearm and a knife in 2 different styles, firearm being taco and the knife being a pancake style, I wanted to do the same thing. I had this knife and I broke the holster for it about 4 or 5 years ago. I really like it. It's comfortable and it's a good little carry knife for me for self-defense. So I wanted to make a holster for this. I thought this would be a great little thing to start on. The finger hole is not that thick, so all I did on this was I covered it from here up with painter's tape to protect it. I did end up putting a little piece of wood up here to mount the belt loop to. So after that, I went upstairs to my wife's oven. Luckily she wasn't home to see what I was going to do, because she would have yelled at me for it. And I took my kydex. What I did with this is, let me show you. I set the gun down like this, and folded it over and made my marks, so I knew how much I needed. With the knife, luckily, in one full piece I was able to do the Mustang, and then I was able to lay the knife down and then down to get my sizing. So I was able to do it in one cut, so at least I have a nice piece to try something else with. So what I did was I started with the handgun. I took my big piece, I put it in the oven, and I waited until it got to 360 degrees, and I did check it with the thermometer. Everything came out great. Pulled it out at 360 degrees. I set it down in my press, folded it over onto the firearm, pressed it down, and used 4 clamps to make sure I had a nice, good, solid press on it. I did let it cool for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, it was cool to the touch, and I did pull it out. It was quite rough. It was like, you know, like this. But for my first time, it actually came out better than I thought. So then next, I attempted the pancake. So same thing, put 2 pieces in, waited till it got up to 360 degrees. I pulled it out after checking it with the thermometer, set the one piece down, set the knife down on top, and then the second piece down over it and pressed down. Again, I used the 4 clamps to make sure that I had even pressure, and I guess I had enough pressure to leave the indentations in my press for the firearm, and you can make out the knife right there. So again, after about 20 minutes, I did pull it out. My biggest complaint against myself on the knife was I did not give myself enough material. Luckily, I was able to make it work. So on the knife, when I pulled it out, I actually had the mold up to here and it went straight down. Well, because of the finger hole, it was not able to come out of the holster. So I did have to cut it down quite a bit, and for retention, I did go to the finger hole, as you can see right here. Now, the two things I wish I would have done better, like I said, was give myself space. You can see this eye hole is really close, and I do kind of have to, it comes out fine, I do have to like angle it in. Then secondly, I don't know if you can see, but that tip is really close. Now it's not protruding, it's not, I cannot feel that blade. So I know it's safe. I did use 3 eye holes just because that's where I could get them. Like I said, I didn't give myself enough space, but it does come out very well, and the retention is great. I did end up beveling the sides and then polishing it with sandpaper to make it real super comfortable. I mean, there's not a sharp edge on this thing. Like I said, I did use a piece of wood to give me that little bevel there, so I could attach the belt loop. So this is my pancake style knife holster, and I will say I like this one the best out of the two that I've done. So my other one, I did the taco style for my Mustang. Now for retention, I did the same thing. I went to the trigger guard. It does hold very well. It's easy to get out, easy to slide in, but it still holds very well. With this one, once I heated the kydex up, I did lay the kydex sheet down in the press, folded it over the firearm, and then pressed down. It came out great, except for 2 parts. Well, one, which then cost 2. My trigger guard did not hold up very well, so it's super tight. And when I went to push it in, it was so tight that I was actually moving the slide back a little bit. So what I did was I heated up the holster, pressed on this just a little bit, just enough to free the firearm, and I pushed out here just a little bit to free it up. One thing I didn't notice was when I heated that up, I actually heated up the backside. So you can see this nice little walk here, and it wouldn't go in. So I had to reheat it up on the backside so I could mount my clip. But even though it looks not so great, this mark here is actually for, that looked bad. Didn't mean to hold the gun at myself. Luckily, we checked to make sure that it was empty. That little notch is actually for my slide release. So once it's in, everything fits up very nicely on it. And when you're looking at it from this side, everything actually looks purposeful until you look down there. Now again, first time making a holster, I'm pretty happy with it. I didn't have a holster for this firearm, and it is one of my everyday carries that I choose. So it's nice to actually have one now. Now I did use one of the eye holes just because I didn't need to space this. It holds great, it slides in and out very well. So I just went ahead and threw one in there just to hold it. Now of course this being flared out, I didn't want to try to rework it again to get it to sit right. But again, I'm happy with it. Super easy to go in, and it holds, so I'm happy. This is, I've actually carried it 2 days now, and it's very comfortable, so I'm happy at least for that. My plan is to get some more material and some more clips and stuff. I have a M&P 9 with an Olight PL2 Valkyrie that I cannot find a holster for, and it has a threaded barrel with a compensator on it. I am going to try doing that next with a light to give myself a challenge. I absolutely fell in love with doing this stuff, and I cannot wait to make more. Definitely going to push myself to see what I can come up with. So I appreciate it. I'm happy to be taking the course, and I had a lot of fun. Now, I do want to say, since I am over the 4-minute mark, I do apologize for being behind in some of the stuff. I have went back and tried turning in everything that I could. I went on vacation and forgot to bring the stuff to make the press. And also, I am studying for my insurance licensing because I lost my job. I have a total of 3 courses. I know that's not an excuse. And I am also head coach for Pee Wee around here, and I'm assistant coach for second team. I have a lot going on, but I do want to get caught up. I'm trying to show my kids if you push yourself, you can do anything. So I do apologize for being behind, but if you look back, you should see that I have turned hopefully everything in. So appreciate you working with me, and thanks for instructing the course.